So today we're going to go over Unit 1, Day 8 notes, which is solving equations with variables on both sides. As you notice, there are a lot of problems on the notes, but we are not going to go over all of them. We're just going to go over 5 of them. The rest of them you're welcome to do by yourself. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to ask me in class the next day. So let's start off with a couple steps. As you already know, by this point, we're about to add our last step to the list of steps that we already have. That way, we have basically reached the end of the type of equations that we're going to need to solve for 8th grade. And using these 6 steps that I'm about to go over will simplify the process of solving these multi-step equations. So on the right side of the page, let's start off by writing the word steps. Now, step 1 is get rid of the parentheses, if there's any. If there isn't any, you don't have to worry about step 1. Step 2, of course, is look at the left side and combine like terms. Step 3, look at the right side and combine like terms as well. Number 4, do you have variables on both sides? If yes, then jailbreak one to the other side. Excuse me. Now, number 5 is move the constant. And number 6, move the coefficient. Now, of course, I'm going to go through all the steps every time I do any type of equation from this point forward, okay? So let's start with example 1, which is an easier example. Now, step 1, under number 1, will be get rid of the parentheses. There's no parentheses, so I can skip step 1. Step 2 is to combine like terms on the left side. Well, if you look at the left side, there's no like terms to combine, so I can skip step 2. Step 3, look at the right side and combine like terms. Nothing there to combine. Now step 4, that is the new step we are learning today. Variables on both sides. Yes, as you can tell, there's 2 variables. Now you need to decide which one do you want to jailbreak. Do you want to jailbreak the 6R over here, or do you want to jailbreak the 7R over here? It really doesn't matter. As long as you do it correctly, you should still get the same answer. So for me, I'm just going to move the 6R over here, and that's a positive 6R, so it becomes a minus 6R. So I'm left with negative 6 equals 7R minus 6R is 1R. Now really, you could divide by 1, but dividing by 1 really doesn't change your answer. So in reality, your answer is just R equals negative 6. Okay? Example number 4. Step 1, get rid of the parentheses. Nothing there to get rid of. Step 2, look at the left side, combine any like terms. Nothing there. Step 3, look at the right side, combine any like terms. Nothing to combine. Step 4, are there variables on both sides? Yes. Now you need to decide which one you want to jailbreak. Now, as you notice, there's a minus x, there's no number there, so you should know that means that is implied to be a 1, so it's a negative 1, x. So now, you got to decide, do you want to move the minus 4x over here, or do you want to jailbreak the negative 1x over here? Doesn't matter, just pick whichever one you prefer. I'm going to go with the minus 4x to become a plus 4x. Remember, when you move something over the equal sign, it does the opposite of the operation. And the original operation is negative 4x, so the opposite is a plus 4x. So we're left with 13 equals 1. Now negative 1x plus 4x is positive 3x. Now you need to, next step, move the constant. The constant is the number without the letter. So this 1 will be moved to the other side and it becomes a minus 1. So you're left with 12 equals 3x. Then the last step is move the coefficient. So the opposite of multiplying by 3, divide by 3. So x equals 4. Okay. Moving on to number 6. Step 1, get rid of the parentheses. Nothing to get rid of. Step 2, look at the left side and combine like terms. Well, if you notice, I have negative 10 and negative 5. That will become negative 15. Now, I have also a positive 4. I didn't even see that. So let's go ahead and combine those three numbers together. Negative 10 plus 4 plus negative 5 should give me negative 11. Okay. Now, as for the x, there's nothing I can do with the x except bring it down. And remember, you can put a 1 in front of the x if that makes you more comfortable. If that makes it more comfortable for you. Now, let's move to the next step. Step 3, look at the right side and combine any like terms. Nothing to combine, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring it down. Now, this is my new original problem. Now, step 4, look at the variables on both sides and see which one you want to jailbreak. Now, you got to decide, do you want to move the 7x over here, or do you want to move the 1x over here? For me, I'm just going to move the 1x over here to make it minus 1x. So, on the left side, I have negative 11. On the right side, I have 6x minus 5. Step number 5, move the constant. That constant will be the minus 5, so it gets moved over here, so that becomes a plus 5. So negative 11 plus 5 is negative 6 equals 6x. And then, of course, your last step is to divide by 6. So x equals negative 1. Okay. Now, let's flip to the back and let's do two problems that are a little bit more complicated, but still possible with our steps, okay? So let's do example 1. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of the parentheses. And this time we do have parentheses, so I want to distribute that 2 with everything inside of the parentheses. So 2 times 4x is 8x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Now, of course, everything else you didn't do anything with, you didn't touch it, so I'm just going to bring it down. Now, step 2. Look at the left side and see if you can combine some like terms. Nothing to combine. Now, look at the other side for step 3 and see if you can combine like terms. Nothing to combine. Moving on to step 4. Decide which variable you're going to jailbreak. For me, I'm going to move the 4x over here to become a minus 4x because that's a positive, so the opposite of a plus is a minus. So I'm left with 8x minus 4x. It's just 4x. Bring down your minus 6 and bring down your 2. Now, the next step is to move the constant. So that will be the opposite of a minus 6 is a plus 6. So I'm left with 4x on the left side and 2 plus 6 is 8 on the right side. Now, of course, the last step is to move the coefficient. So the opposite of multiplying by 4 is to divide by 4. So my final answer is 8 divided by 4 is 2. So x equals 2. Okay? And the last example we're going to do for these notes is problem number 3. Now, as you already know, the first thing I would like to do is get rid of the parentheses. And there's two sets of parentheses in this problem, so I'm going to have to get rid of both of them. So now, if you notice there's a negative there but no number, you can go ahead and put a 1 because that's implied to be a negative 1. So let's distribute the negative 1. Negative 1 times 8n is negative 8n. Negative 1 times negative 2 is a positive 2. Now, of course, don't forget to bring down your equals and your 3. Now, this is very important. The only number that you can distribute with this parenthesis is the number that's right beside the parentheses. And in this situation, that's the 10. The 10 is the only number I can distribute. You cannot do 3 plus 10 gives you 13 and then distribute 13. You can't distribute the 3 along with the 10 to give you the correct answer. That will be wrong. The only number you can distribute is the number that's right beside the parentheses. It has to be beside it. They basically have to be touching. The 3 has nothing to do with the parentheses. The 3 is minding its own business. So let him be for the time being. The only thing we're going to be messing with is the 10. Okay, so 10 times 1 is positive 10. 10 times negative 3n is negative 30n. And as you can tell, we have gotten rid of the parentheses. Now, step 2. Look at the left side and see if you can combine like terms. Well, if you notice, there's nothing to combine. Moving on to step 3. Look at the right side, see if you can combine anything. Of course we can. We can combine the 3 and the 10, which gives me the 13. And then, of course, everything else I can copy down. And same goes for the other side. Now, the next step is to jailbreak variables. Now, we have two variables, so you need to decide which variable do you want to jailbreak. I'm going to jailbreak the minus 30 to become a plus 30. So, I'm left with negative 8n plus 30n should give me 22n. And then, of course, bring down your plus 2 and your 13. Now, step 5 is to jailbreak the constant. So that will be the opposite of a plus 2 is a minus 2. So we're left with 22n equals 11 because 13 minus 2 is 11. Then the last step is to jailbreak the coefficient, and in this case is the 22, and we're multiplying by 22. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So my final answer will come out to be 11 over 22, which simplifies to 0.5 or just 1/2. Okay, and there's your answer. Now, if you have any questions about any of the other problems, please do not hesitate to ask me in class the next day. I will see you tomorrow in class.